Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Wild Your Garden, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to sow your own seeds, how to sow your own plants, and in particular my very favourite non-native herbaceous perennial, which is Verbena Bonariensis, which those of you that have been following the channel and what I do for a little while will know how much I bang on about this plant. Even the RHS recommend it as a bee-friendly plant, of course. Which it is. It's absolutely loved by a lot of butterflies, moths, bees and many other insects. I've actually counted up to about 17 different species of butterfly that use this plant, this herbaceous perennial, and it really is a cracking plant. It's one that can go in the front of a border, middle of a border or the back of a border, because it's such a light, airy plant. The stems are very slender and tall, so it's not a problem. It doesn't shade anything out. It's just fantastic. And these purple little lollipops, I'll just show you again. This is actually a seed packet that I'll be sowing the seeds from, but you can see it's these lovely little purple lollipops which flower from June right the way through to November. So one of the best things about this plant is that it has such a prolonged nectar period for so many of our insects, and particularly in the later summer months into August and September, when it will be still providing nectar for late emerging insects such as butterflies, including things such as red admiral, some of the small whites, obviously large whites later emerging, maybe the third generation if we have a good year. Not that it's been that good a start to the year this year, quite cold here in the UK in April, one of the coldest on records for a long time actually. But it does flower, as I say, from June right the way through to November, so it really is a fantastic plant for your herbaceous borders, and one you definitely should be looking to plant. It's one that will go really well in full sun. Doesn't tend to like the shade too much, but full sun is absolutely fantastic, and it's really such a great plant for sprucing up your borders. So well drained soils as well if you can. It does prefer well drained soils, but if your soils are heavy you can always add a bit of sharp sand or something to the soil, of course, just to aid in the drainage of the water. So hopefully you should be able to find a spot for somewhere in your garden for these plants. And of course, if all that fails, put some in a pot on your patio or balcony. If you haven't got a garden, stick some on a balcony. They really are such a fantastic plant, a great all-rounder, as I say, and absolutely loved by many insects. So, Verbena Bonariensis, how do we go about sowing it? And this is the same principle for a lot of the wildflowers that I sow, that are of course available on the Wild Your Garden shop. And if you haven't got the time to sow any or the means to sow any, then do check out the Wild Your Garden shop, where we do currently have an offer on of 3 of these plants. Is a nectar pack, if you like, which I'll feature in another video that I'll put at the end, the link at the end of this one, where I explain in more detail the benefits of the 3 varieties we are selling. But do head over to wildyourgarden.com if you want to buy this plant as an individual plant, and then we of course can supply you with that if you are within the UK. So without further ado, let's have a look at how we're going to sow these fantastic little herbaceous perennials. And first thing you're going to need is either a seed tray, so you know, a little bit of a tray where you can put some compost in, and then obviously sow your seeds in. It doesn't have to be very big, can be quite small if you want to, or just sow them into a pot if you haven't got much room, like I say. However, in this instance I've got a bit of a seed packet. I'm not sure how far it'll spread, but I have got myself one of the plug trays that I use for, you know, planting out all the plugs that I do on the wildlife garden projects around the UK. But if you can't get hold of one of these, as I say, a standard seed tray, you'll just have to prick them out later on. These plug trays are quite handy though, because if you turn them round, they've got holes in the bottom, so when it comes to actually potting your seedlings on or transplanting them into a bigger pot, you can just poke a little pencil into the back of these plugs and they just drop out nicely. So really handy for that, for when you come to potting on. Saves you the kind of painstaking work of teasing individual plants out from a seed tray. However, that is perfectly viable, as I say. So this is not quite a full seed tray. This is just one that was cut down from an order, but this is perfect for sowing the plants into. So I've got my seed tray. You're also going to need some seedling compost. Now, there's many composts that are available, and these range from obviously peat based, which of course I don't advise you use because it is sapping the natural resource that are our peat bogs, which are of course an essential habitat for many life forms. So if you can, please use peat free compost, and I've used this good old Johnins soil-based compost, which is a really nice medium to use. It's quite a sandy, loamy mixture, but it is soil-based, so good for obviously our insects and everything else that's living in these peat bogs. Now, all you want to do is just get yourself a few handfuls of this, spread it over the tray. Don't firm it in too much at this point in time. Just loosely cover the gaps. As I say, I'm not sure how many I'm going to use of these gaps, or of these individual plugs, because I'm not sure 100% how many seeds are in the packet, but we shall see. So, just a loose coverage over the top for now, like so. So you can just about see the plastic in between the individual cells. Then I've come unprepared. Hang on, bear with me 1 second, I'm going to get another seed tray. Yeah, so I just need you to grab another seed tray and you'll see why now. Don't worry if you haven't got another seed tray to hand. You can of course just individually firm the individual cells down if you like, but quite handy if you've got a couple of these knocking about. You can just line it over the top, give it a few taps, and all that does is give yourself a really nice load of divots, if you like, in the soil, so that you can then sow your seeds into these little dishes, if you like. So, dry hands for this bit, but first what we're going to do is we're actually going to moisten the soil. Here's a hose I rigged up earlier, and just simply put it up. Make sure you put it on mist. Oops, didn't mean to spray the camera there. 1 sec. Yeah, so without spraying where you don't want the water to go, make sure your sprinkler head, if you like, or if you're using a watering can, you've got a fine head for your watering can, because too much water can actually wash the soil away and wash the seed away and move it all around, so you don't want that. So I've just set mine to, on the top there you can see, should be able to, yeah, there, you can see I've got mine set to mist. So we're just going to give the soil, the compost, a light mist, not so that any puddles really start forming. But just gives the plants or the seeds something moist to bed down into, gives them a bit of a head start. So, dry hands now for this part. I advise bringing a towel if you can. Always have a towel to hand when you're sowing seeds or working in your greenhouse in general. So, these are quite small seeds. Hang on, I'll show you. A few more that don't want to come out. Okay, so you can see it's not many. They are quite small seeds, these are. So I'm just going to individually drop them into the trays. Usually I just do 3 or 4 seeds per tray, and that way you can guarantee 1 or 2 will germinate per plug. So I'm just dropping them into those little divots that we've made with the previous seed tray. Quite a fiddly job. So I've got my seeds, there's a few there that are just spilt over, which I shall drop in. So you can't really see where I've put the seeds because they are so small, but I've put them in these first about 3.5 rows I've got there. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows wide, or 10 cells wide. So I've got myself potentially 35 plants there, which is great from a little seed packet that just cost a few quid. So that's those in their spot. So now what we need to do is get a second layer of the seedling compost. The compost, by the way, I meant to say earlier, you want to make sure you have got seedling compost for this. It's just a lot finer material than other composts. You can see it's quite a sandy, loamy based compost there, because it just makes it a lot better for the seed germination. The seeds can then take hold in this compost a lot better than if it was a lot more kind of big vegetated material, which is designed more for you know, sort of shrubs and trees, obviously things with a bigger root structure, that sort of thing, and used more for when you're potting on shrubs and trees into bigger pots, that sort of thing. So seedling compost is important when you're doing this, and as I say, peat free please if you can. So I've got a little bit too much soil on there, but I'm just literally same as I was before, just a nice coverage on top. Any excess back in the bag. Don't waste any of this stuff. So I've got a nice flat layer or flat finish on top of the seed tray now. So all I'm going to do is just apply a second dose of water. Don't let it puddle up again, just make sure that it is actually just enough to give it a nice bit of moisture on the top of the cells, but not enough so it's filling up with water, and those seeds of course then can be washed around and moved about. So there we go. Those are the seeds sown. So, and of course, to make sure, just wash the label off. Make sure you don't forget what you've sown, because it's easy to remember it at this point in time, but in a few weeks' time you might be wondering what has come in or what's coming up. So just get one of the little labels, or if you haven't got one of these plant labels, of course, get yourself, you can get them from most pound shops, that sort of thing, the little white plastic labels, or even use a recycled label if you can, of course, rather than buying new plastic ones. But you can get the little cardboard ones, or as I say, recycled ones that you can just shove in, write with a bit of pen on them, and just to note the date that you sown them. Sometimes it's interesting to see how quick things germinate from year to year, and of course when you've sown the seeds. So get a little label, stick it in. If you're sowing multiple trays, now what I've done, here's one I made earlier. This is one that I've sown prior to this video, which is a 150 plug tray. This is a full tray, just like the one I've been using, but before it's cut down, of course. And in that I've sown some lupins and some borage. Borage, a fantastic plant for bees, most of you will already know, but borage, a really, really good one. And of course you can use it for tea purposes as well, G and tea, that sort of thing. So borage, a great herb for your garden, if even you're not thinking about the wildlife. But of course, that's what we're all about. That's why you guys are here. So there's some more I've sown earlier, which hopefully will be coming up in a couple of weeks. Now the germination on these, I think, it usually says on the back of the packet. Always check the backs of the packets, by the way. They are the best source of information usually for when you're sowing these. So yeah, should be they should be coming up. It's saying here within you know, sort of 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully. So and if you keep them damp, then obviously they should come up a bit sooner as well. Don't let the seedlings dry out completely. That's the main thing when they are establishing. They need that moisture to get the roots down as quick as possible. And of course light. Now these want to be in a light position. Now I'm on the sort of the glass side of the greenhouse, which you can't quite see, but it's on that side there. So this does get a lot of sun. So it should be absolutely fine, but keep them in a warm spot. If of course you haven't got a greenhouse, put some in on a windowsill, and normally even a north facing windowsill. You don't of course want them to get too hot on a south facing windowsill if you're not able to regulate the temperature, if it's in a garage or something. So as long as they get plenty of sun, plenty of moisture, keep them in a little tray. If you're going to be away for a few days, put them in a little tray, keep a bit of water in the bottom, that way it can slowly wick the moisture up and help the seeds germinate and develop. But hopefully within no time at all you'll be able to see these seedlings coming up. So I'm going to do another video on these when they are coming up, and of course then we can show you how we put them on into bigger pots. But I just thought I would show you today, first and foremost, how you get these plants sown, and hopefully turn them into your own little wildlife friendly plants for your own garden. So Verbena Bonariensis and sowing some plants. This time of year, of course, the best time of year to sow them now. We're about sort of mid-May, so we're coming up towards the end of the sowing period, but any time from sort of, depending on the seed, any time from sort of March usually onwards through until June is absolutely fine. And of course, if these plants don't flower this year, it's not a problem. They can go out into the garden, probably be potted on, through the summer, and then go out into the garden, be planted in the garden later on in the summer, back end, probably September time, October time, where they can establish then over the winter, and then provide you a really good source of nectar for your bees and butterflies and other insects into the following year. So yes, I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey through these plants and bring you a few more videos as to when they start germinating. We put them on, as I say, how to prick them out, how to put them on into your next pot, and how to look after them. So any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to help you guys make some more wildlife friendly plants. And thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and give the video a like, and I'll be sure to bring you more videos on the updates of these plants and also many other ways in which you can help wildlife in your own garden in videos to come. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.